Today is a special version. Well, no, they're all special. They're all procurement special. But it's slightly special in my mind because it's not what I planned to do. I was going to be talking about ethical selling. And I'm going to talk about that in the future. But the reason I changed my mind at the last minute is that I was doing some training last week with a procurement team. Now, normally I'll be training sales teams, but I had some actually quite senior procurement leaders who asked me to come and talk to them about volatility. So I said, well, better than that, let's talk about volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Let's go the whole VUCA, and let's think about how we can combat that with VUCA Prime. So this is kind of fresh thinking in my mind that it is a very, very useful stuff for procurement people to think about. I have run training for salespeople in how to help procurement folk deal with that. So I thought, you know what, while this is fresh, let's go with this and put together this episode around that. So that is what we're going to do today. If we haven't met before, my name is Fred Copestake. I'm founder of Brindis, which is a sales training consultancy. Around the last 25 years, I've been around the world 14 times, worked in 38 different countries, and now trained over 10,000 salespeople. So, yeah, a real privilege and honour to do that. It's given me the insights to write the books that you see behind me, Selling Through Partnering Skills, Hybrid Selling, and Ethical Selling. And one of the things that I think, and certainly what Alex, founder here at Alchemie Network, reckons, is that sales and procurement same side of or different sides of the same coin. So that's kind of what led me to do that work last week, and why I'm running these shows here. So up and running. Just start with a little question to get your brains warmed up. I would like you to put into chat what are the names of the two main protagonists, main people, in Rocky IV. Rocky IV, the two main boxers. Give you a clue: the Russian and the American. Rocky, yeah, you're not getting any points for that. Second name required. And then what is the name of the Russian? What's the name of the Russian? Rocky IV, classic film, 1985 came out. It is Rocky Balboa and Ivan Drago. Why the hell am I talking about this? What's going on, Fred? Well, when we think about VUCA, I get intrigued about where this sort of stuff comes from. And so VUCA is a military term. It's originally a military term that came about at the end of the Cold War. And so that's why I think of that Rocky film. It was East versus West, man against man, Rocky against Ivan Drago. And when the wall came down, there was no longer kind of an obvious enemy. So it's very difficult for military. They knew there was enemy around, they knew things would happen, but the whole stage was volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. VUCA. And so they started using these terms. This then has been used by people in the commercial world, saying, well, actually, yeah, we suffer, or we have to deal with similar sort of things. So I think it's a useful model to start to think about what do those words actually mean, and kind of what causes them, where are these impacts coming from in our world. And so that's what I encourage salespeople to understand from the point of view of the buyer, of the customer, to think, well, okay, these guys are going to be having to deal with this. Can you understand it and put yourselves in front of them with some solutions? And there are solutions which come in the form of the other VUCA. But let's start to think about this first from the point of view of VUCA and kind of how it's causing us potential issues. So the first part of this is V for volatility. V for volatility. So this refers to the nature, the speed, the volume, the size, dynamics of change in any given industry, market, or organization. More volatile that the environment is, the greater, the faster conditions change, the harder it is for us to keep up. And so the question I would pose to people who need to get their head around this and are looking for the antidotes is first look at what is potentially causing this. What are the impacts? So if you're live and you want to put some of these answers in chat, or if you're listening to this on the recording, think about what causes volatility, what's causing major change in your world. That's going to be a source of something that you want to deal with, and we've got ways in which we can deal with that. We work through a lot of this, and a lot of these things can, I think, be boiled down into the respect factors. These are the external change drivers, where we look at regulation, economics, social elements, political, environmental, competitive, and technological. Now, there could be other things. There could be other stuff. I'm actually just looking at my notes here of the things that the group came up with at the time. They were talking about those things I just said. They were talking about changes in leadership within companies. Maybe financial crisis is economics, geopolitics, personal topics. Yeah, so things that are going on with individuals, they are going to potentially cause us volatility. Demand supply change, these kind of things are what's going to cause us volatility. Recognize those, and we're in a better position to be able to deal with them. Okay, so next up on the VUCA checklist is uncertainty, and this is to do with predictability. So here what we could say is that it refers to the extent in which an organization can confidently predict future events and issues and how that might impact them. So really, the more uncertain something is basically the harder to predict something is. So we could, again, think about that. What are the things that you're finding hard to predict? Where does that get difficult for you? What things are you getting uncertain about because potentially, and I'm kind of looking at the notes I've got here, the lack of experience that you have. Perhaps it's unclear communication or lack of communication completely. Maybe it's false, or the speed of information that you're getting. Maybe it's too much information. Maybe it's hidden agendas. Maybe it's mistrust. There's plenty of things which are going to cause issues of uncertainty. Think through what those are, list them out, and be ready to deal with them. While you're doing this exercise, what I would suggest is that you're not trying to solve them straight away, just scope them out. Let's go through the whole lot. So the next thing that we would want to speak about is complexity. So here, complexity, this is referring to the number, diversity, and interconnected nature of factors that organizations need to take into account. So kind of the more complex the environment, basically the harder it is to analyze. There's more stuff going on. It's complicated. So again, we can take time to think about what is it that's making it complicated? What's going on? I refer to my notes again. When we talked about this, things which people were thinking were making stuff complicated. Again, there's respect factors, potentially conflicting targets, different KPIs, cultural differences. We had a decent discussion around that people working across various different sectors and various different countries found it difficult. So kind of globalization and interdependencies that come from that. Again, unclear responsibilities, lots of different people all doing lots of different stuff, but who's actually really responsible for it, and who's accountable for it? Yeah, missing competence could be something else that's causing this level of complexity. Not knowing the rules, and matrices doesn't really fit together well. All of these things are potentially causing us these issues. And so last up on our VUCA checklist is thinking about ambiguity. So ambiguity, so this is, it's lack of clarity as much as anything else. It's difficult to understand exactly what's going on. And there's this phrase that I came across when I really first started studying at VUCA, which was this haziness of reality. This sort of is mirrored in the military world with this fog of war. We don't exactly know exactly what's going on, and so the more big ambiguous environment, it's all about being difficult to interpret. That's what's going on there. So we've got these things, and again, if I just go quickly back to the checklist, the things that we were discussing, and which perhaps you're already thinking, what's causing ambiguity? Again, data not being in the right place, or not having it. Yeah. The way in which we understand things, we should probably take some personal responsibility on this. We had a big discussion around fake news, social media, what is actually real. I'm sat here in the UK still trying to get over the fact that an AI went to Wimbledon or something like that. I don't know. Some AI influencer doesn't exist, went to Wimbledon, and some company paid this thing to, I don't know, all a bit difficult. Yeah. We talked about cultural stuff, so maybe languages can make stuff difficult to understand. Conflicts of interest, lack of buy-in. There's various things which are going to cause us these issues. Okay, so look, I'm flying through these. Appreciate I'm going at speed, because what I wanted to do was set up the VUCA model: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, so that I could introduce then VUCA Prime. So VUCA Prime sounds like a kind of funky transformer. It's not. VUCA Prime is the antidote that we have to VUCA, and it begins with the same letters, which is why I love it so much. People who know me know I love an acronym. Okay, so VUCA Prime, this was something developed by a guy called Bob Johansson in about 2007, 2008, I think. And so what this does, it counters. And so we're going to counter volatility with vision. We're going to counter uncertainty with understanding. We're going to counter complexity with clarity, and we're going to counter ambiguity with agility. So VUCA is countered by VUCA Prime. So we've got vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. We can use whatever tools, techniques, structures, formats we've got to put those things in place. And so this is, again, something you could think around in how you could put these things together. So I'm going to slow up a little bit, because I know I flew through the VUCA bit, to give people who are in chat a chance to pop some stuff in here and to participate a bit more. It's feeling a bit like a monologue. So hi Sharon, hi Richard, hi Alex, hi and Laura, I hope I've said that right. Hi Junior, and hi everyone else that's in there, which I might not have scrolled down and seen. So the question that we need to think now is, we're operating this VUCA world, we've got all this stuff going on, it's making our lives difficult. But if we create a vision, if we have vision, then that is something that can help us work through the challenges that we've got. So how could we create vision? What could we be doing? That's the question that I'll pose. If you guys want to pop it in chat. This is something that I will train salespeople to be thinking about, to work alongside customers, procurement buyers, anybody that they're selling to help them get this vision in place. So understanding what goals, what targets, what this better future is. This is where I think we can massively add value. Yeah. So suggestion there in chat from Alex: what of your problems am I going to solve? Yeah. So where are we now? Where do we want to be? What's causing that? So what are we going to focus in on? Where are we going to concentrate our effort? Yeah. So we could certainly do that. From the point of view of being a procurement leader, and this is what we were talking about then, we're talking about creating the vision for the team, creating the vision for the people we're working with, and to get them excited, get them behind that. So to create, one of the words used was the North Star. Get a North Star in place so people know where we're going. That's where we're headed. That's what's going to drive what everything we're doing is all about. And we can have a path. We can have some milestones to try to achieve that. Yeah. So good idea around this is taking time to discuss. A good salesperson should be able to facilitate that conversation. They're there to help. They're there to ask questions, to promote discussion, and help people to work out where they're going. Another thing we're talking about, and it's something that I'm quite strong on at the moment, particularly since I've written Ethical Selling, is about being true to your values, being authentic. So making sure that what we're doing is in our lane. We're not trying to do stuff which is pulling us out of our own value systems, because that will cause issues. That'll become difficult. A little bit of time out of there, being uncomfortable, it can actually become pretty nasty. So again, thinking about how we could do that. We talked about stakeholder analysis, thinking of what other people might be trying to achieve and making sure we're aligned, but certainly thinking about what that might look like as we're creating the vision together. Cool. So keeping us moving on so I can keep the episode tight, try and keep us within that, I said 25 minutes, half an hour slot, is when we're thinking about the next piece of VUCA Prime, which is about understanding, thinking about understanding. How can we develop understanding so that we're countering the uncertainty? What sort of things can we do? Get a question out to the people who are watching this live if you want to drop that stuff in chat. Thing that I train salespeople here is to help that thinking by bringing insights, perspectives, telling stories, not made up Jack and Nori stories, but stories, success stories, examples of times that people might have been in a similar position and how they've dealt with it. Go easy on, aren't we great because we provided that solution? And that's not what customers are interested in. They're interested that there is a solution and what those results were. And stimulating creative thinking. So we know questioning skills very much helps with that. So think about then, what are some of the things that we can do to create understanding? Yeah, sorry, I forgot to scroll down again. I'm so bad. I'll get good at this one day, promise. So yeah, Sharon's saying, yeah, listen to customer understanding, listen, understand solution. Yeah. Listening is a big thing, Junior. You're dead right on that. Yeah. VUCA sounds a little like a Trump negotiation strategy. Well, yeah, because he wants to create uncertainty. It is absolutely a play. I was listening to a podcast by some poker players who talk about poker and how you play that, and then kind of how people use that in the business world, some of the strategies, and creating uncertainty, being kind of maverick, people not knowing what it is you're going to do is a deliberate thing. It's very difficult to play against. Okay, so yeah, when we're thinking about understanding, so yeah, listening, curiosity, Julie, I think you're saying that as well. Yeah, examples. Also, be aware of emotion. Be aware of emotion. It's all very well having nice, boxed out, structured, formulaic pieces of thinking. But at the end of the day, there's people, at the moment anyway, still involved till the robots take over. So think about that. Observe how people are reacting. And give people time to digest stuff, particularly if you're giving a lot of new information that could be a bit of a surprise to them, could be a bit of a change. Where react to change can be quite difficult. Another good suggestion actually was, if you're working in an organization that's got a lot of special words for themselves, a lot of kind of their own language, and acronyms, create a dictionary, create a lexicography. I don't know what the right word is, ironically, but something which defines all of those different words. Yeah, so we can certainly create better understanding to counter the uncertainty. Also, another thing would be root cause analysis. So going down using 5 whys, 7 whys, yeah, fishbone, whatever it is, to understand what's kind of actually causing this stuff, and we're better positioned to deal with it. Good. Let's continue. The next thing is to think about clarity. How do we create clarity, which is going to help us deal with complexity? Clarity is going to help us deal with complexity. So again, the sales training side of me is saying to people, it's also about information. So it's giving the right information so that people can make the right decision. Support people in their decision making. Yeah, informed decision making. All over that at the moment with the ethical selling thinking. And be very clear what execution looks like. So from sales point of view, I'm saying, hey, look, mutual action plans are our friend. Yeah, mutual action plan. What's the outcome? Because that's what we're selling. Selling outcomes. Where do we want to be? And so what are the things that we are going to do to achieve that? We. So in other words, my company, your company. And who in that is going to do that when? So we've got a very clear path to getting those results. Any thoughts then, folk who are live, as to what else we can do to drive clarity, or how our creation of clarity can be done to be most effective? Any thoughts in there before I refer back to the little notes I was looking at that I took during the week? Any thoughts there? So one of the words that came out in all working groups was simple. I think we kind of know that acronym. Yeah, keep it simple, stupid. Yeah, nice and simple so that it's straightforward enough for us to be able to keep on the path without confusing ourselves with our own solution to something which is supposed to be overcoming that. So that's certainly something we can do. Interestingly, the procurement team last week started talking about the customer's value. So who's your customer? Now, some procurement people will be aligned to the organization's external customers, but either way, you'll have internal customers. So that kind of what's in it for me, what's valuable for them, what they trying to achieve. Let's keep stuff in line and have our steps working towards that. Yeah. Stakeholder analysis. Absolutely, Alex. Yeah. So understanding the stakeholders, what are they trying to achieve? Are we aligning and are we doing stuff that's going to help them to get what they want, their value? Read the room. How is this stuff landing? If people are looking confused, if it's not having the desired effect in stimulating the activity because people are still trying to get their head around, it's probably not clear. Yeah, so our own solution is causing us as many problems. So we need to think about that. So yeah, relevant facts and figures, documentation, so very obvious documentation that people can refer back to, and the implementation plan. Mutual action plan is a sales type document, but any kind of implementation plan to do that. And yeah, the way in which we message, Alex is saying here, multiple messaging, different messages for different stakeholders. They care about different stuff. They probably care about different things at different times. There's different things which are relative to their role and what they're trying to achieve. Yeah, so from a sales point of view, we know that this is where a lot of salespeople will kind of fall down a little bit because they've got one message, they kind of blast it out to everybody. It probably means nothing to anybody. Rather than being very clear that the CFO is wanting to achieve something which is probably different to a sales director, which is probably different to an ops person, different to a procurement person. They've got different things that they're employed to try to do. So make sure we're achieving that, but that we are messaging that correctly as well. So be very, very clear on that. Yeah. And then follow up on the impact. These things should be having an impact so we can follow up on that. Okay, keep it going. I've got 5 minutes, so we're just about on time. With the A. So the last A of VUCA Prime is for agility. Agility is what's going to help us with ambiguity. Agility is going to help us with ambiguity. So again, some things that I would be training people with on that It's there to support people to adapt, support them to innovate, be ready to improvise and to make those shifts when required. Don't be stuck in the mud. Yeah. So here we've also got, I'm just reading there in chat. So yeah, having options when you're backed into a corner, Trump corner. Yeah. Boxing corner, Trump corner. Yeah. So think about that. Some of the other ideas that came out of that. So this is getting quite technical. I did this explained to me was about having shorter planning cycles, and there was a whole discussion around OKRs. Yeah, which I thought was quite interesting. And then people were talking about Scrum and Agile and various techniques which exist exactly for that. So yeah, keeping options open, reviewing, what can we learn from that? Defining frameworks, empowering people to make decisions. Yeah, try, fail, retry is okay. One of the groups wrote, and I absolutely agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And try to avoid too much of a moving target. Not fair. The goalposts keep shifting. Yeah, comment there in chat. All of procurement and sales are currently having to rethink everything we have become. Yeah. And the smart ones are the ones which can rethink that, can get their heads around it, and can align themselves to work together better to get to the outcomes which are going to benefit both. Carry on playing the same game, get same results. Problem is, same game, the laws are changing. Tell a rugby ref, can't you? We have laws, not rules, but same thing. The rules are changing. So yeah, can we recognize that this stuff is going on? It is. That's your VUCA side, but also recognize there are ways to overcome this. That's your VUCA Prime side. And if we're in this together, which we should be, we can get to where we need to be faster. And that's why kind of having a model and this structured thinking to help people get their heads around this, and then we're not in this kind of conflict world. Enough of that out there. That's causing some of the VUCA. But we can start to align around that. So VUCA Prime, that was something I thought, because it's kind of a hot topic, it was something I was talking about recently, I would bring in and cover super fast in this procurement special. So I know it's been a bit of a monologue. I know I've chucked a lot of stuff there. So as a sort of a slower recap, VUCA, 80s military model describing the environment that we were left in when Cold War finished. Stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. We are in VUCA times at the moment, and probably will be ongoing. So then we accept that and realize, well, let's work with the people that also understand this and also want to try to make most sense of it. Yeah, they're with the people who think like partners and recognize that we are in this together. That means we can start to engage in developing vision together, developing understanding together, developing clarity together, developing agility together. That's how we can start to make sense of this. So yeah, look, I'm coming at it with the sales head on. That's what I do. That's what I'm training salespeople to be. You might not need salespeople to do this. You could probably do this on your own. Yeah. My suggestion is, though, that find the good salespeople who have got their heads around this, and they're very much in a position to help you do that. So that is very much, that's where I wanted to be. Just spotting another little saying there: build agility, resilience, and invest in data analysis plus curiosity. Yeah, curiosity. Easy for me to say. Curiosity only kills cats, and they've got 9 lives anyway. So yeah, so absolutely curiosity around how can we do stuff and being able to change is something that makes sense. So awesome. So I appreciate it. It's a bit of a run through. As always, look, if you want to chat to me about this stuff, please get in touch. You know, this is just a little snapshot in some of the things that I do. Want to share it, want to try and help people do it. Get in touch with me, and I'm more than happy to go a bit deeper on this. So if you're listening to some record, same offer. For those of you who've been here live with me, awesome. Thank you very much for that. I know I was going a bit too fast perhaps to get some of the things in there, but you can see me looking at what you're putting, and I always appreciate that as well. So that's what I wanted to get to. Like I say, get in touch, and we can talk about all things VUCA around there. And I'm signing off with a smile on my face. I've just scrolled down to the very end. Sharon has said, salespeople also have 9 lives. Maybe. You might have written my LinkedIn post for sometime this week, or I could put that out there. So I appreciate that, Sharon. Thank you. Take care, everyone.